Welcome back to Daytime Ottawa. My next guest has a brand new title, much shorter than her actual title, but it is author, and she's co-authored a fantastic new book. It is called Peyton and Charlie Challenge Math. I am joined by Dr. Erin Maloney. She is an associate professor and Canada Research Chair in Academic Achievement and Wellbeing at the University of Ottawa. Erin, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. You know what? Before we get to the book, just tell me about that role that you have at the University of Ottawa, because I think it's a very unique title. I'd love to know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's so I'm an associate professor at U Ottawa. So I teach some classes, but my job is more focused now on research. So that's the Canada Research Chair part. So I get some sort of special, I guess it's a special situation where I get to focus more on the research part than the teaching part.
Right.
And our lab really looks at stuff related to the book. So really looks at how emotions can influence how children are learning in the classroom.
Fascinating. So there's the inspiration, I guess, for the book itself. So let's talk about the book. You know, you worked with a co-author. How did you come up with sort of the themes of what how you would tell that story?
So you know what? There's also a secret co-author who's not listed on the book, who is my now 9-year-old daughter. So my daughter, at the beginning of the pandemic, was experiencing, a fair amount of anxiety, like a lot of kids were. And we were working through different strategies that can be used to help reduce anxiety. And so we started writing this poem. And because most of Mummy's research really focuses on anxiety in the classroom, and math specifically, we decided to write the story about a little boy who's really anxious about math. And so this is Peyton and his friend Charlie, who helps him learn all these different strategies that are used to reduce anxiety. And so one of the neat things is that in the book, it's all framed as strategies that can reduce anxiety about math. But in real life, these are strategies that can work in virtually any kind of situation that is going to make you anxious. So it was a little bit of a working through it with my daughter, but working through it with her by writing this story. And so after we had drafted it, I reached out to a colleague of mine who's a school psychologist and who spends most of her days both doing research but also working with children who are really anxious, and said, okay, hey, why don't we roll with this? Why don't we turn it into something? So officially, it's written with Sherry Lynn Skorchek and myself, but unofficially, Catherine Outram played a major role in the evolution of this story.
Nice, nice. And of course, that part of that storytelling for young people is through illustrations, and the book has some beautiful illustrations in it. But can you just tell me a little bit about the process of working out that anxiety when it comes to math? Because I'm someone who really struggled, probably to my dad's chagrin, because he's a chartered accountant and my brother was a CPA himself, and math and I just never connected.
Didn't work out. No. So it's interesting, right? Because one of the things with math is that it's complex, right? It's complex. It requires a lot of logic. But there's also all these social stigmas about some people are math people, some people aren't, etc. And there's no science to that. The science really says everyone can do it if we do it properly. Okay. Or if we approach it properly. So this just to give you a sense of what the book kind of looks like. So we highlight some of the strategies in here being, some of the deep breathing strategies that you can use to help reduce anxiety. So here we teach kids to treat their hand like it's a mountain, where you're going to inhale on the way up and exhale on the way down. So they always have their tool available with them to do that deep breathing. We talk to them about the importance of constantly working on it, right? So math is not something that you're necessarily going to get the first time you try, but you want to take baby steps and start with the questions you do know and then gradually work your way through it. And really talking about the importance of building confidence in mathematics. And that idea that if you don't know something, it's just you don't know it yet, right? And we're going to keep working at it, and we're going to keep putting that effort in. And so this is just sort of a subset of some of these strategies. I will also say, you mentioned the illustrators. So this book was illustrated by two students at the University of Ottawa, so who are local to here. So Fraulein and Roger Retinal, and they are amazing. I can't do that. And so I think that's phenomenal.
Unlike math that everybody can do, Erin, I guess you're saying not everybody can do illustrations quite as nice as that. A question I have for you, do you think that all age groups have math anxiety? It doesn't matter how old you are?
Yeah, so you know what, there's actually been a ton of research done on this. Some of it by my students and myself, and some by others all around the world. And we see that all over the world, people will experience anxiety about math. It starts in children as young as about 6 years of age and goes all the way up until people are senior citizens. So if we don't intervene, usually if you're someone who's anxious about math when you're young, you're going to continue to be anxious about math when you're older. And so that's why I think it's really important to actually intervene. And we see that about 25% of the population reports being extremely anxious when it comes to doing anything mathematical. So whether that's, taking a math test in school or even just calculating a tip at a restaurant, trying to figure out if you got back the right change. So it's certainly something that many of us tend to experience on a pretty regular basis.
Right. I guess these strategies, I know it's a children's book, but I guess these strategies really could work for anybody, right? Not just for young people.
Yeah. And so you know what? So we wrote it as a kid's book. In large part because, like I said, I was writing it with my daughter, but it was partly designed to secretly be a book for parents and for teachers as well. Because certainly parents and teachers, we know, get anxious from time to time. And so the strategies, while it's pitched as a kid's book, can certainly be for pretty much anybody.
Erin, last thing is where can people pick up a copy of the book, whether, a teacher, a parent, a child, where can they find it?
Yeah, so people can buy the book. It's available on Amazon. It sells for $7.95 Canadian.
Wow.
And that price is actually one where Sherry and I make no profit on the book at all. So although I would love people to go out and buy the book, I don't make any money off of it. It's literally just out there to get the information into the hands of people who might need it.
I love it. What an amazing initiative. Erin, really appreciate the time today. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, pick up a copy of the book. I think it could really change somebody's life doing something like that. We'll be right back after this.